Good evening, Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, Mr. Vice President, and Mrs. Gore. Very fine to be here. And with this very handsome crowd, you're a very good-looking crowd. And just a little intimate gathering of 2,500 close friends here to celebrate two of the nicer families in the neighborhood. I am honored and proud to join you. The Clintons and the Gores are my good friends, seriously, and I know that every one of you is just as proud as I am to be here tonight to show your support and your appreciation for this great administration and the hard work they are doing for our country. These two families are our representatives to the rest of the world, more importantly, to ourselves. And folks, I want my country and my family to be strong and wise and kind. The Clinton family and the Gore family speak very well to us and for us of kindness and wisdom and strength. This very forward-looking administration is truly working today to create a better society for tomorrow. On the environment, Bill Clinton and Al Gore have made our air and water cleaner. They're protecting our public lands. That's something that Americans, that our grandchildren will be thanking this administration for generations to come. Also, Bill Clinton and Al Gore are making quality education a priority for everyone, not just those who can pay for it. They are making education for every child in America the foundation of their bridge to the 21st century. They understand that the greatest social disease we face is ignorance. Crime rates are coming down in America because of the policies of this administration. We've got more cops on the beat and more children playing on the streets of their own neighborhoods again. Children who now have a chance to lead a better life. You just can't argue with progress like that. And this administration, more than the Republicans, will go down in history as the administration that ended deficit spending and balanced the federal budget, so that we can start putting the money where it's needed, into jobs, education, health care, and the environment. On so many important issues, Bill Clinton and Al Gore have a real vision of where they want to lead this country. And they're proving every day that Democrats can get the job done. I would now like to ask the President, the Vice President, Mrs. Clinton and Ms. Gore to please join me on stage. Come on up, y'all. Yes, sir. Well, you're very handy. You're very handy, sir. That was a great speech. Well, I'm not through yet. I got to introduce Ms. Gore. Just a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, I have remaining to me the the privilege of introducing someone that I've known for 32 years. 32 years ago, she was a little girl, but I thought that she was a beautiful woman. I thought she was very wise, and I knew very well she was unintimidated by big boys. Today, she proves that good people don't really change. She's wise, she's beautiful, and she's unintimidated by big boys. She is a strong voice for children and the homeless, and a tireless advocate for mental health and substance abuse care. She currently serves as mental health advisor to the President and as special advisor to the Interagency Council on the Homeless, where she helps to improve the delivery of federal resources to state and local programs. In 1990, she founded Tennessee Voices for Children, a coalition that promotes the development of services to troubled young people. Her great warmth and humanity are reflected in her two photography books, Picture This and Picture This, a visual diary, which have received wide acclaim and touched the hearts of many. Please join me in welcoming a dedicated public servant, wonderful human being, Tipper Gore.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I love that. I love that. Thank you very much. I would like to invite all of you to please be seated and relax and enjoy what is a wonderful evening. Okay. You can't sit down? Okay. Give everybody else a chance. Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here. I just want to know, did you all hear what Billy Crystal said at the Academy Awards, at the Oscars? The only person, he said, guaranteed to wake up in the morning with a statue is Tipper Gore. That would be me. That would be me. But I am not actually here to introduce a statue. Hillary is. In fact, I'm actually a little irritated with the statue right now. Lately, I've had the same problems with my husband that I've had with my teenagers. I can't get any of them off the phone. Oh, no. Does anybody have any advice? But I am happy to be with you to celebrate an evening in which I feel as though I am sandwiched between a wonderful old dear friend, Tommy Lee Jones, who's an Academy Award winner, as we all know. We recognized his talent back in college years. And on the other end, when I finish my few remarks, we have a Grammy Award winner. I mean, that's pretty neat. Academy Award, Grammy Award, and I'm in the middle. I am very, very proud to be a part of the DNC Gala celebrating the second Clinton-Gore administration, and want to thank you so very much for being a part of that. I am so proud of the accomplishments, and I know you are too, from the Family Medical Leave Act to cutting the federal deficit in half, to signing the crime bill, which our president did, the Brady bill, and the assault weapons ban. And women have been so very important to all of our successes. With the continued support of women and others, we will continue to be at the forefront of efforts to make workplaces family-friendly by aggressively making child and elder care more affordable, encouraging telecommuting, and offering flexible work schedules. And yet, of course, we all have a great deal of work to do. Many accomplishments, we're in the right direction, but we've got to roll up our sleeves and continue to work. And your willingness to contribute to our efforts towards the 21st century are absolutely tremendous. Now, I do want to share a little bit with you about our First Lady and some of the things that she represents to the world, to women all over the world as well as to men. She is an icon. She is a person that's served as a role model. She is a person whose leadership we are dedicated to and that we honor. She has traveled in China and South Africa and Pakistan to talk with women. And next week, she's on her way to Mexico and Costa Rica to talk to the women about all the struggles that they face in their daily lives and the kind of progress that we can highlight in order to strengthen our common goals. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you a very real winner, a Grammy Award winner, and a winner in every single category, our First Lady, Ambassador to Women around the world, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Don't use the line. Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do it.
All right, and I'm not going to say
Oh. Thank you all very much. Thank you. I am just thrilled to be here with such a wonderful turnout of Americans who support this administration and understand what is at stake in the efforts that the President and the Vice President have undertaken to improve our country and to put it in the best possible position for the 21st century. I wish that we could personally see and thank every one of you, but I hope you know how grateful we are. I'm also grateful for the friendship that Bill and I have with Al and Tipper. It has been one of the most important parts of the last 4 years for us. Tipper has been a strong counselor and a supportive friend, and has, in her tireless efforts to improve conditions for people, made tremendous contributions to our country. I know also that the service of our Vice President has been probably the most significant of any Vice President in the history of the Republic. And you know, on occasion, he's actually had to fill in for the President, and he has done, as you would expect, a great job. But you may not know that the Vice President has actually been President. On Inauguration Day this past January, the Vice President was sworn in at 11:58 a.m. After that, things ran a little longer than planned, so the President was not sworn in until 12:06 p.m., 5 minutes later than the law requires. And the Vice President noticed that 5 minutes. As a result, some legal scholars are now saying that Al Gore was the acting president for 5 historic minutes when America was not at war but at peace and was prosperous from one coast to the other. His administration will go down as having been a great success. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce the former President and current Vice President, Al Gore.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And I want to say to the First Lady, I really appreciate you giving me that generous introduction and pointing out that interesting and significant historical fact. That was a very special 5 minutes for me, for my family, and if I may be so bold, for America. Historians will remember the Gore administration as a time when it wasn't perhaps morning in America, but at 12:01 p.m. it was pretty close. And it's true that we were at peace at home and abroad, and the economy was booming with low inflation. And you know, I'll tell you another fact. With all due respect to President Clinton,
There were fewer crimes committed in my administration than in any other Democratic or Republican in the history of this country. I think it's partly because we put 2 new community police officers on the beat, Eddie and Dwayne. We created 3.1 jobs. America moved forward. But what is perhaps most important to me is that partisan bickering, so often the bane of politics in Washington, gave way for the entirety of my administration to bipartisan harmony, with patriotic hymns bursting forth from the steps of the Capitol. I think it's partly for that reason that the chant began there on the West Steps and swept across the country to the Pacific Ocean. 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. Incidentally, Mrs. Clinton, I've selected my presidential library for my papers. It's a shoebox in Nashville. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very proud to have as our First Lady an individual who inspires women and girls and people all over the world to reach out to their potential, to reach out for equality and dignity and justice, and we're very proud of the way she represents us at home and abroad and uncovers new problems and proposes new solutions, like that conference on child development and children's brains 2 weeks ago in the White House. What a wonderful contribution, and we appreciate it very, very much. Tipper and I are very, very proud to be a part of this administration, and I want to say before anything else that I really appreciate my friend Tommy Lee Jones for coming here and being a part of this evening and being our master of ceremonies, and we're looking forward to a good visit before he heads back to Texas. Thank you, Tommy Lee. And I want to thank the entertainment, As Yet, the Pointer Sisters, and Arturo Sandoval. Thank you all very, very much. I also want to thank those who have done such a wonderful job in putting this event together. The President will have the honor of acknowledging the gala chairs. I do want to single out, as he will, our Victory Fund Chair, Dan Dutko, and his wife, Deborah Jospin. We're so grateful to you. You've worked so hard. And to the other chairs who will be acknowledged. And I want to acknowledge the 21st Century Gala chairs, these young and upcoming leaders, Ken Bailey and Roger Ballantyne, John Merrigan, Joe O'Neill, and John Porter. Thank you very much for your hard work. And I also want to acknowledge our General Chair of the Democratic Party, Roy Romer. Thank you so much. And our National Chair, Steve Grossman and Barbara Grossman. Thank you very much for your leadership. Our Finance Chair, Alan Solomont and Susan Solomont, and our Treasurer, Carol Pinsky. To all the members of the Cabinet who are here, and the senators and members of Congress and the key White House staff, I'm very grateful, as are we all, to each of you for being present here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my task to present the President. In doing so, I want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you for making this second Clinton-Gore term possible. I want you to fully appreciate the contributions that you have made to the recovery and renewal and reinvigoration of America. Our country's on the right track again, thanks to President Clinton, and thanks to all of you for making it possible. Thank you for re-electing us and giving us a chance to take that oath of office on January 20th. Don't you forget for 1 minute the importance of what you have made possible. When we took office 4.5 years ago, you will remember that times were hard. Our economy was facing very difficult challenges, a triple-dip recession and rising unemployment, record deficits and a rising debt, rising crime rates, worsening social problems. And this president went to work with your help and your support to pass a dramatic package of changes that renewed our economy, brought the deficit down, created jobs, started solving our social problems. And just think for a minute about what has changed since you made this new approach possible. 12 million new jobs, a doubled stock market, dramatic reductions in inflation. The deficit's gone down 5 years in a row. The debt's going down. The economy is recovering. The U.S. is #1 in the world in category after category. Our social problems are getting better. The crime rates are going down. Teen pregnancies going down. The welfare rolls are going down. American communities are stronger. American families are stronger. America is on the way back under President William Jefferson Clinton, and you made it possible, and we thank you. And now, at the beginning of the historic second term, we've got many battles that lie just ahead. We must continue the approach that has been so successful during the last 4.5 years. Right now, this president is charting a course. Tomorrow, he will dedicate the memorial for Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, that I believe in my heart that when the history books are written many, many decades from now, they will remember with a special place of honor in history not only Franklin Delano Roosevelt and George Washington and President Lincoln and Theodore Roosevelt and Thomas Jefferson, when they recall the presidents who have presided over our nation during times of recovery, during times when we gained strength, during times when the American people felt better about ourselves and our future. They will list on that short honor roll of history the man it is my privilege to present to you now, President William Jefferson Clinton.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vice President, thank you for that overly generous introduction. I loved every word of it. That 5 minutes was the best 5 minutes I ever lost in my presidency. Hasn't been the same person since. I want to thank Tipper and Al and Hillary, all of them in their various ways, for being unique parts of our rather unique team. I want to thank Tommy Lee Jones for coming here tonight and for giving that fine speech and being loyal to his old friend Al Gore. You know, I'm not as mobile as I normally am, and I'm in this big old awkward chair, and I heard Tommy Lee's voice sort of booming out, you know, and I couldn't decide whether I was the fugitive and I ought to be on the run, whether I was Batman and I should duck. I didn't know what I should do. You know, I really enjoyed watching Tommy Lee and Al's friendship. They have a lot in common. They sort of like to shoot the bull, and when they get around each other, they've been friends so long, their accents get thicker, you know, and the stories get more embellished. Just like any other two rednecks from Harvard you ever met. I want to thank our distinguished leaders, Governor Romer and Steve Grossman, and the dinner chairs, Abe Poland, Tommy Boggs, Morty Barr, Janice Griffin, Bob Johnson. Thank you, Alan Solomont and Dan Dutko and Carol Penske. Thanks to the entertainers, but I'd like to ask you all to give a special hand to our dinner chairs. They work like crazy to bring this off for us tonight, and I thank them for it very much. I won't take long tonight, but I want to just reinforce a couple of things the Vice President said. Tomorrow we're going to dedicate this memorial to Franklin Roosevelt, a man who believed in bold, persistent experimentation, a man who became president at the country's lowest ebb in this century, and whose faith and optimism and determination carried us a very long way. When Al Gore and I sought your support and the votes of the American people in 1992, we were thankfully in nowhere near that much trouble. But it was clear that we were in the midst of drift and division and deadlock. It was clear that we were going through a period of profound change, moving into a new century, a new millennium, and a new way of living together, and that we had, as a nation, no clear strategy to pursue. And I had a simple idea, that I wanted my daughter and her children to grow up in an America in the 21st century where everyone willing to work for it had opportunity, where all citizens recognized that there were no rights without responsibilities, where we cherished our diversity instead of being torn asunder by it, and we drew together closer as one America, and where we embraced the world instead of running away from it, and we're glad to be still the leading force for peace and freedom and prosperity. That is what I want, that is what I wanted, and that is what we are going to have in the 21st century, thanks to you and millions of Americans like you all across this country. And I thought to do it, we would have to experiment. I had some ideas that people said were nutty, and they weren't appropriately pure. They were not perfectly liberal or perfectly conservative. I had this crazy idea that you could reduce the deficit and still increase investment in people and education, that you could actually reduce the size of government but put more money into the things people needed, that you could actually help business and labor, that you could actually grow the economy and preserve and even improve the environment. Now, we started this economic program, and all of our friends in the other party voted against it and said it was crazy and it would never work. Well, sooner or later, the posturing has to not count nearly as much as the results. We had a record number of new jobs, a record number of new businesses. We have the strongest, healthiest economy in 30 years, and wages are going up, and inequality in this country is going down among working families for the first time in over 20 years. And you should be proud of that because you made it happen. I'm proud of it, and I want you to be proud of it. I had this idea that crime was not a political football, that you should position yourself around in Washington with a bunch of rhetoric, that it really would make a difference if we put community policing back into America's streets, and we put more police on the street. Not just Dwayne and Eddie, the two that Al put when he was president, but 99,998 more. And we're well on the way. And I thought it was silly to say that an American citizen couldn't favor the right of sports people and hunters to use their weapons and not be for sensible restraints on gun ownership and acquisition by criminals and dangerous people, and people who are incompetent should not have them. I thought that was wrong. When we passed the crime bill, they said, well, it didn't fit in anybody's little box. All I know is crime's still going down every year. There are more police on the street. America's a safer place today because we were interested in what would work to fulfill our values. And if people are not secure in America, they are not fully free. We were right, and you should be proud of that. I want you to be proud of it. Well, I could go through a lot of other issues. I'm proud of what we did in Haiti and Bosnia, in the Middle East and Northern Ireland. I'm proud of the way we reached out to Russia and to expand NATO. I'm proud of the fact that we said we are going forward as one country, and we started the AmeriCorps program to give young people a chance to serve their country and earn some money to go to college. And as I look back on it, I would have to say that thanks to all those things, and the family and medical leave law, the initiative on tobacco, and a lot of other things, this country has more opportunity, more responsibility, a closer-knit community, and is stronger in the world in its leadership role than it would have been if we'd stayed the course that was dominant in 1992. You were right, and you should be proud of it. And a whole lot better off than we'd been if the contract with America had not been stopped in 1995. Now, in the first 100 days of this administration, Democrats and Republicans are working in good faith in the hope that we can reach a budget agreement. But what we want is simple and clear. We want to balance the budget and invest more in education, extend health care to children. Yes, we didn't win the health care fight, but Franklin Roosevelt was for experimentation. I'm glad I tried to give the hard-working families of this country health insurance. I'm not sorry I tried to do that. I think we were right to try, and we ought to at least give it to the children of America in this term. We can do that. We ought to continue to clean up the environment. Now that we're requiring people on welfare who are able-bodied to go to work, we ought to make darn sure the jobs are there for them, and we ought to stop the punishment, unjust, of legal immigrants in this country who work hard and do their part to make our country strong. We've got that kind of budget, and I hope we've got that kind of budget negotiations going. We've got 20% of the country committed already in the first 100 days to embracing national standards for learning, and for the first time ever in America, having an examination of 4th and 8th graders in reading and math. We have got hundreds of businesses, hundreds and hundreds, committed to helping us move 1 million people from welfare to work. We had Hillary's conference on early childhood and the brain, and the magnificent Summit of Service in Philadelphia last weekend. That embodies what I think America is at its best. Putting people first, putting our country's future first, not taking cheap shots. And after a long fight, we also ratified the Chemical Weapons Convention, which will take us a long ways toward eradicating the threat of chemical weapons from the face of the earth. We are moving in the right direction. What I want to say to you tonight, in closing, are 2 brief points. First of all, it bothers me that members of both parties, at this moment of America's greatest influence, most profound economic and social renovation, when we are in the greatest position of all to try to bring the people of the world together in economic cooperation and competition, advancing democracy and human rights, finding ways globally to preserve our little planet's environment, that people in both parties somehow feel afraid of the future and afraid of the rest of the world and don't want to eagerly embrace it. If you believe for a moment that we can fulfill the legacy of Franklin Roosevelt and continue to lead the world by hunkering down, withdrawing, turning our backs on a waiting world that longs for what we now almost take for granted, that is wrong. The Democratic Party at the end of World War II under Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman said to the rest of the world, come on, we'll all get together and go forward together, and I want you to be a part of that kind of Democratic Party for the 21st century. And the last thing I want to say is that Franklin Roosevelt was an awfully good politician. After all, he managed to get himself elected 4 times. He managed to always look happy and strong and confident, no matter what personal pain he might have endured. And he was marvelously successful because he liked people and he liked politics. And I hope you're here tonight because you like politics. And I hope you never stop liking politics. And I wish that we could have had this event tonight in the Lincoln bedroom, but we did not have enough coffee in the White House. Now, the next time somebody asks you why you're helping us, tell them the stories I told you tonight. And think about the people you know whose lives have been changed by what we have done in moving the AIDS drugs more rapidly to market, and coming out for the family leave law, and making college more affordable for people, and creating all these jobs to give people a chance to work in dignity, and having the biggest drop in welfare rolls in the history of the country. Now, you think about that. All that was made possible by the American political system. I am proud of you. I want you to be proud of you, and I want you to get up tomorrow and say, I'm glad I was part of that. America is better than it was 4 years ago. It's going to be better 4 years from now, and the most important thing is my grandchildren will live in a 21st century that is worthy of America's glorious past. Thank you, and God bless you all.